Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, and decorate. Hello and welcome everyone to the Make and Decorate podcast with Stephanie Socha Design, and I am Stephanie. So thank you for joining me today and happy April. It's April 1st, and here we are here in the Chicago area. It's just, we're in this type of weather pattern that is just unpredictable. It's very unstable. So last week, it was a lot of rain, wind, and cold weather. And then this week, we have lots of wind and I'm talking 40 to 50 mile hour winds. But then it's going to dip down and it's going to be like 25 degrees as a low for the next 2 nights. And then by Easter, it's going to be 70 degrees and sunny. It is the most crazy time of year for weather because I don't even think the transition from summer to fall is this chaotic. And from fall to winter doesn't really ever seem that chaotic either. It just seems like the winter to spring is a very tumultuous time to get the weather kind of set into its right season. Also with all the rain that we got last week, Nashville really got, in the East Coast, they got too much rain. There were floods and everything. And I hope that everyone that lives in that area, if you're listening now, I hope that you're okay and your home is okay. There's nothing, it's just nothing like these extremes, whether you get severe flooding or, the wildfires that happen in the summertime. So when we get annoying weather like rain and wind and cold, I just try to not complain too much about it because of these extreme weather disasters that other people are going through. So I count my blessings and it could be worse. So as most of you know, last Thursday was my big 50th birthday. And I have been talking about it because for months before this now, I have been struggling with it and just dealing with just these emotions that I've never really had to deal with before, and aging. And none of us are experienced with that because you just handle it as you age. But anyway, thank you so much for your birthday wishes, your very kind words. And for those of you that have already been there, done that, your encouraging words were very meaningful to me. So I really appreciated it. And I'm glad that I did say something ahead of time because I think that it really helped me to unload it and not internalize it. And by the week of my birthday, I changed my attitude and I decided to enjoy it to the fullest extent. And let me tell you, that changes your whole experience of whatever you do. It depends on your attitude going into it. And sometimes you don't know how to change your attitude. So that's why I kind of asked for some help that I really needed. And I'm glad I did. So thank you very much. And another thing that I realized with it as well is that I got to do some things that I haven't been able to do for the past year. And a lot of us probably haven't either because of this COVID and pandemic. But my husband gifted me a mani-pedi day. And, I went and just, kind of melted in the chair and was able to take a deep breath and really enjoy it. And of course, they upgraded me to this spa one for extra money. But you know what? You only turn 50 once. So I said, just bring it. Bring on the rose petals and the lavender. And totally enjoyed it. But I was thinking about that, and I'm like, it's just been like, you don't even realize what a tight ball of nerves and stress that has happened and I have become during this year of pandemic. The only thing I can liken it to is that I have been maybe for the last year curled up in an armadillo ball, kind of like with the armor, because you got to wear the masks and protect yourself, protect your others, people you love. And I didn't realize how much that it had affected me until last week. So, I mean, if I didn't have sewing and all my other crafts that I know help me and that I know that I need, but I didn't know that I needed this other external stuff to help brighten my mood, my day, my mental like happiness. So yeah, it was kind of like a realization in the mani-pedi chair. I can't do that all the time though. It's just too costly, especially here in the city. When you lived in the city, you get city prices, but it was very, very good. And I did, they have like a basic pedi. I don't need to get a manicure every time. So I signed up and scheduled a regular, just a basic pedi for next month. So, and you know what? It's a form of maintenance too. So you got to keep your toes healthy. Okay, I think I've gone on enough about a pedicure, but I think you guys understand what I'm talking about, and so that's what I've been going through the last week, and also my mom, of course, was not going to let my birthday go by without some sort of a celebration, so we went over to her house. Also, plus my brother got back 2 days before my birthday from deployment. He had been gone for over a year, and it was so nice to see him again. Oh man, I just I thought that I was going to be like a blubbering mess when I saw him, but when I saw him and he was just smiling so big that I just I smiled. I was happy. I was happy to see him, and we had a really good time. And I have to tell you that I got all dressed up for this little family get together, and I wore magnetic eyelashes for the first time. And I got this idea from Frances Dowell, the Off-Kilter Quilt, on her Instagram. So on her day one introductions of IG Quilt Fest, she said, "I am now a woman who wears magnetic false eyelashes," and takes silly pictures of herself in an effort to keep her spirits up. See, that's what I'm talking about. You got to do these little self-pampering things to keep your spirits up. So I saw this, and I have heard about these magnetic eyelashes for the past year. But I've heard conflicting things, like they don't work, blah, blah, blah. But when I hear this from Frances of Off-Kilter Quilt, I'm going to try them out. And I did. I researched and I found a nice, affordable set from Amazon. I'll put it in the podcast page. You guys, these are so easy. I could not believe it. All you do is put on liquid eyeliner that has some sort of a magnetic, base to it. And there's little tiny magnets on these false eyelashes. And then they snap right onto that eyeliner on your eyelid. And it's awesome. It is so awesome. And I did the shortest pair that came in the pack, the most natural. And no one could tell. I I asked my husband, "Do you notice anything different about my face?" He couldn't figure it out. No one. And so then when I said to everyone, I'm wearing magnetic eyelashes," and they're like, "What? No way." So immediately my mom and then my sister wanted the link. So thank you, Francis. Thank you very much. These are so much fun, and you are so right. They lifted my spirits, and I'll be wearing them again. Not every day, of course, but I mean, anytime I want, I can wear them. They're just a little bit of joy. All right, so I have an update to my garden. So last fall, I planted what seemed like a million bulbs, daffodils, tulips, what are they called? The real tall with the purple poof balls on the top. Allium, that's what they're called. See, this is what happens when you turn 50. You have it in your head 1 second, and then like 5 seconds later, you're like, it's in my head. Where did it go? That word. Allium, allium, allium. Tulips and the daffodils just started to bloom. The daffodils are so happy. That buttercup yellow color and the cute wavy shape of the little circle in the middle. Oh, so cute. So yeah, they're doing pretty well so far. Everybody's posting their vaccine like little certificates. I don't know. I don't know if I might. I don't know. But let me tell you, I have been trying to get my first vaccine appointment scheduled, and it has been a challenge because especially here in the city, there's a lot of people and there's not a ton of vaccines yet. By May 1st, they keep telling us there's going to be like tons of vaccines, but I finally got an appointment for Friday. Yes, this will be tomorrow when you listen to it on the 1st. I'm telling you, like, I'm on this little notification list. So every time it will pop up, I've been doing this like all month, because before this month, I really wasn't, didn't qualify for it yet. So, yeah, and I got the notification, and it's funny because they'll send you this notification and they're like, at 12:10, 16,000 vaccine appointments will be available. And then you're trying to get on and everybody's trying to get on. And then you like the websites kind of like get overloaded and they don't even work. So, it is just, it's stressful. So this one came up, the other day, and by this time I'm kind of numb to these notifications. I'm like, oh, here we go again. Well, let me take a look and see. And I got in, and then I started getting more excited, and you would have thought that I won the lottery. I got my first appointment. I ran down the stairs and told my husband, I'm like, I got it. He's like, got what? I'm like, my first appointment. Yeah. So it's the Pfizer, and it's on Friday. So now that all that excitement has died down, now I'm like, oh, I hope that, I don't get any bad side effects, but he didn't have any other than the typical ones that you get with the flu shot. And I get the flu shot every year. So I'm prepared for the sore arm, the tiredness, and the headache. So now I have a better understanding at why people are proudly posting their vaccine certifications, because it is a little bit like winning the lottery at this point in time, of where we're at in the stage of available vaccine shots. All right, so let's talk about what I've got going on in my sewing studio. I talked a little bit about the Irish chain quilt commission that I started, and I talked about that this whole quilt is based off of 2.5 strips cut, and then the littler pieces are cut from 2.5-inch strips. So I've been using this strip ruler template to cut these strips, and for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, I had it. I've had this for a while, and I've used it, on occasion when I need it. But this time, I haven't cut a quilt that had so many strips. So I pulled it out. When I started using it, I was so glad because it made the process easy and quick. But I have the 12 by 12 size, the regular size. And it can get the job done for sure. But I did kind of get tired of having to fold the fabric so that it would fit in between the cutting slots. And I could only get three cuts across. And it was just a half an inch short of a fourth cut. Oh, every single time that got to me, I'm like, oh, that half of an inch, I could get another strip cut. So when I posted in my show notes last week, I posted this other one that I just ordered. It's the bigger size. And, you know, I did this because this is a commission job. So I probably would have just, dealt with what I had. But I need this to be as efficient and accurate as possible. And so I went ahead and got it's the same line. It's the shape cut, but this is called the Pro. And it's big. It is big. It's like 23 inches by, I want to say 17, 20. I think it's 20 by 23. But anyway, the cutting slots are only 2.5 inches apart. So this is specifically made for 2.5 inch strips. And because it goes the length up to 23, you can cut an entire width, that's folded like you get it. So you don't have to do another fold or two on top of that. So it's nice that you can get one clean cut, and then I could layer more fabrics on top of that, because that was the other issue. If I'm folding this one fabric 2 or 3 times, I'm getting 6 layers of a cut. So I'm really only doing one fabric at a time. So with this one, I can layer 3 different fabrics, and get like twice to 3 times the amount of cuts. So that's the kind of thing that you kind of have to weigh as to, how often are you going to be cutting 2.5 inch strips? And if you are, I think it's pretty much worth the investment, because it is an investment. It's it's not a cheap ruler, but what ruler is really? They're all investments, but that's kind of like how I weigh it. I think about it and I think how I'm going to use this. And it really does make cutting strips really easy. And also, with the price of fabrics going up, as we know they are, you can cut your own jelly rolls with this very easily if you want. So, the only thing though with jelly rolls is that you typically get the entire line of a collection of fabrics. And that to me is the kind of the draw of actually like ordering pre-cut jelly rolls. Otherwise, if you have to get every single fabric from the line, you're typically limited to buy half yard increments. Some places will do quarter yard cuts, but either way, it kind of like gets pricey if you want to do the entire collection. But let's say you have like tons of stuff in your stash. That's a very cost effective way to get your jelly rolls. All right, and I know I'm using that term that's trademarked or whatever by a certain company. It's just like the Kleenex and the tissue. So I don't know. It just comes out like I call all 2.5 inch strips jelly rolls for that reason. But so anyway, I am almost done with the baby quilt panel that I've been talking about. It's a pre-printed panel with a cute little bunny and some hearts and then some flowers at the bottom. And so I was embellishing it, which is the main topic of today's episode. I'm going to talk about different kinds of embellishments that you can do to fabrics. But anyway, this baby quilt. So it's done. I did all these cute little hand embroidered accents to the panel, and it turned out really cute. The only thing that I was like questioning is the eyelashes on the bunny. I did little eyelashes, and up close when I was stitching up close, the face looks really cute with the eyelashes. But then when I put it on my design board and looked at it from a distance, I was like, that bunny looks angry. Like she's squinting her eyes. Oh, and then I walked up, like if you're within a couple of feet of it, she looks like a precious little bunny. Then you walk away 6 feet or more and she looks like a little angry bunny. So I kind of went through like, well, should I take these out and redo them or not? And I'm like, you know what? No way. Because up close, and this baby is going to see the bunny up close and, she's not going to know. Plus, it's so cute. So that's one of those things where, stop trying to be a perfectionist. So I stopped myself. But yeah, I really am pleased with how the embroidery turned out. And I think I talked about my disaster with printable heat transfer vinyl for her name. And I was making some heat transfer vinyl t-shirts for my brother, which I'll talk about in a second. But in that process, I realized what I did wrong with that printable, which is weird because I just did a printable quilt label for that heart quilt that I made, and it turned out great. So I guess that was just a happy accident. So with the one that I did initially for this baby quilt, I did not let it cool. So there was this little chart in one of the vinyl rolls that I have, and it said like there are all different types of vinyls and they are not all done the same way. So for printable, and I think for the foil or metallic, don't quote me on this, but definitely for the printable, you have to wait for it to cool before you peel off the clear backing on it. And so because it started to happen with that gold metallic that I was doing on the shirt. So I did look at the roll, and I was glad that I did, because then I realized some of these you have to wait for them to cool, but the regular like matte heat transfer vinyl, you're supposed to peel it back when it's warm. So I don't know. It's just like there's so many variables, but once you kind of like get used to it, it's just a learning process. But so that's what happened with the baby quilt. So I fixed that, and I used my silhouette cutting machine to cut out fabric letters, and I hand appliqued them to fabric that essentially is a patch, and I blanket stitched that. I did that blanket stitch by my sewing machine. With really cute variegated thread. So that patch did turn out much cuter than the printable HTV. It did. So it was kind of, again, like sort of a happy oops accident. It did cause a bit more time involved in it, but I think it's fun to be able to fix your mistakes, and it comes out even better. And again, anytime you have a mistake, it's always a learning experience, and then you're that much better at your craft. So I will have pictures of that in the show notes, but it's so cute. And now it's all basted. I pin basted this one, and because it's small, and I've got to quilt it. So I already made the binding. It's so funny because the basting is the part that I need motivation to do. When I get to that part of the quilt, I like try to put it off. I, just distract myself with other things. And then finally I'm like, I have got to get this done. So I finally start basting it. And but before I started basting it, I distracted myself, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make the binding first. So I got that ready, And it's not a bad thing to do, though, because it's kind of nice that right when you're done with the quilting, your binding is right there ready to go. But for me, it is a little distraction tactic to not do the basting. So that's got to be quilted and bound. And what else? Oh, yeah. So let me get into the silhouette, my new silhouette machine that I got for Christmas. I have been using it, and there's a bit of a learning curve because I've only mostly used it for heat transfer vinyl. So now I'm learning, like, the fabric rotary blade thing with it, and and like I said, the different types of heat transfer vinyl. Like I'm new to the printable ones. Let's see. So my brother, I was smart this time. So I got, all the big box stores have these t-shirts blank in different colors, and they have different qualities. So I got the nicer quality ones, but I got two because I knew I was probably going to make a mistake on the first one. And so sure enough, I did. I made a mistake. And but it was one of those mistakes where I looked at it and I'm like, that's just looks like part of the design. But I'm still going to make another one that's the actual design. So what I ended up doing was when I did two colors. So two colors of vinyl is a little bit more, advanced, and you need to do like registration marks. And I watched videos and stuff, and a lot of people draw these little rectangles and they will cut out with the vinyl, but you're supposed to remove them like when you're weeding it. So the weeding means that you're taking off all the vinyl that you don't want ironed on to the shirt. So the first one, I forgot to weed the rectangles and they got pressed on there, but they happened to have been placed right in the middle of these lightning bolts. So it did sort of look like part of the design. They weren't just hanging out somewhere weird. So the design is, my brother now is into this Morse coding, and it's very involved and very kind of over my head type of thing, but he has this coder name. Like, you have to get registered as an amateur, and you're assigned this name, and that's how you identify yourself. I think it's involving like a ham radio. I mean, it's totally old school, but it's also modernized because you can do the coding like on your phone or iPad, computer, as well as that old-fashioned machine where you do the tap, 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 tap. Yeah, he's so into it. So I made him that with his code name on it. And a popular design of that, I purchased and downloaded, and it's like this, what looks like a cell phone tower or radio tower. That's what it is. And around the radio tower are the little like lightning bolts that I think are supposed to be sound wave bolts or something. But anyway, so yeah, my two color one has the registration marks in between the lightning bolts. And then the second one, I simplified it, and I'm like, I'm just going to do this in one color. And I remembered to take the registration marks off, and it turned out perfect. So all was well, but it was fun. I really like doing that kind of stuff on the silhouette. And I have been watching videos of other things that this machine can do, because I'm telling you, it's quite an investment, and I want to make sure that I am getting the most from this machine. And the other thing is, because I have it out in its permanent spot on the counter, very easily accessible, it's easy to just go use it whenever I need to. I also decorated a gift bag, just like a real inexpensive craft brown plain gift bag with handles. I did the regular vinyl, the vinyl that you can, it's not heat transferred at all. It just is sticky like stickers. And so I did a design of that, did his name and like a cool little USA with stars design on it. And it's so funny because I did this at the very last second and it was just really like thrown together. And then when we're there, everyone's like, "What? You made that?" I was like, "Wow." Sometimes you get so into this stuff, and then we are communicating with each other that have, similar skills and likes and crafts and, talent. We have talents that we don't even realize sometimes that other people, it amazes other people. And it's kind of fun to like kind of be a little bit shocked because I'm thinking like, oh gosh, I just like threw this together and hopefully it looks okay. And apparently it was good. It was good. So yeah, there's a couple of other techniques that I think I want to try. So I've been watching videos on, there's infusion ink pens. And the Silhouette and the Cricut both have the ability to put any type of pen into their little holders, the little blade holders. There's like adapters. So there's two types of pens that I think I want to give a try. One of them is a foil pen, which will do like shimmery, shiny foil designs, like gold foil, silver foil, iridescent rainbow foil. And then the infusion ink pens, which is a form of, here we go again, forgetting the name. Vicky Holloway talked about this type of infusion printing or whatever. Sublimation. It just came back to me. Sublimation. That's what these pens are. So yeah, those two. And then I also downloaded a couple of designs to cut 3D cards. There are really cute, kind of geared towards kids. There's these cute cards that you cut out the card stock and they fold into like a card that has like a depth of about maybe a half an inch. And then there's little cutouts for about 4 crayons that you can put in there. And then the top of the face, the front of the card has like a little coloring design on there that the little kids can color in on their birthday card. So I want to try that with some of my nieces and nephews. So yeah, look at that. I've got like a big silhouette list to do. I'm going to move on now quickly to clothing projects. So I, with the changing of the seasons, I don't know, but if you kind of like, start getting excited for wearing a different wardrobe for the season, it's always fun. And I ordered and just got a cashmerette pattern. It's called the Hollyoak dress and skirt pattern. It's a maxi dress and skirt. And so I think I'm going to try the skirt first. So I have some cute little florally fabric. I actually ordered some Robert Kaufman lawn fabric. So it's I felt it. And it does have the weight of a lawn fabric. It has a nice feel to it, but it is definitely not Tanalon, the Liberty Tanalon. The Liberty Tanalon literally feels like silk, that smooth. But this Robert Kaufman lawn is really nice. So and for the price difference. So I'll let you know how that goes. I'm looking forward to finding some time, if I can soon, to make a skirt. Knitting and crochet. Okay, so here we go again with the Arne and Carlos knit-alongs. I tried to do the eggs. At Christmas, I tried to do the Christmas balls, and I have not. It is a miserable failure. Those double-pointed needles. I'm almost there though. I saw a technique of casting on with the needles and how you can keep them in order from not twisting on you, and so that you can make that final connection in the round. That is my like major obstacle right now, is just getting that first cast on closed, and making a round within the 4 needles. I was able to do it a couple of times, but then here we go with all the, 4 needles twisting around while you're trying to knit on the 1 needle. So I think it's just going to take some more practice and work in trying to get that. But I also watched a video on circular needles, and you can also do this project with circulars. There's magic loop I saw, and then by the time I had watched all of those, my mind was just mush. I'm like, okay, I cannot like put another thing about knitting in the round in my head right now, because it's just too much. way too much. I have not given up by any means. I will be coming back to it, but I have to set it down for right now. And so I went back to making some more dishcloths because my mom has requested more. I gave my mom and sisters the dishcloths that I made when we first went into the first lockdown, and I was sick in bed, and I knitted these dishcloths for the very first time. So I found this really cute yarn that is meant for dishcloth knitting, and it's got it's sort of like a variegated thing, where it goes through a regular cotton yarn, and then after so many feet or yards, it turns into this fuzzy, looks like a little shreddedy look of a yarn. And when you knit it, it does have that little scrubby texture. It's like they call it a scrubby yarn or something. So like every couple of inches, it switches from the smooth cotton yarn to the scrubby yarn, back to the cotton yarn. It is a really cute looking dishcloth, but I'm still getting a couple of holes that I'll have to fix before I give that away. Yeah, I'm just, those are much more manageable and easy for me to knit because there's only 2 needles. And I am still trudging along with the crochet hexies. I'm still crocheting a few here and there, and I'm getting towards the end. I still think I have probably at least 50, 55 more to go. So my goal is to have them done, the hexies done by the end of the summer, and knock on wood, sew them all together so that I have this for the next winter. That's my goal. So we'll see if I can complete that one. So IG Quilt Fest. I participated years ago when they first started it, and literally fell off after the first week, I think. And this time I stayed with it through last week. So I was surprised that I lasted as long as I did, but this last week and a half of the month, I just fell off of it again, and just didn't do it. But I'm pretty pleased with what I did participate with, and it was very fun and nice, and it is a nice kind of a social activity. So, and look, I learned about the magnetic eyelashes through IG Quilt Fest. Who would have known? All right, so let's get into the main topic for today's episode, and this is embellishments on fabrics. And I have both hand and machine ideas for embellishments. So I'm really gonna, the point of this I wanted to do is just give you ideas of the different types of embellishments out there that you can try, and not just hand embellishments, but also ones that can be done by machine as well. So the first one is embroidery, and that is being used a lot nowadays to really enhance quilt tops. And I just did that with this one quilt panel. So I will take some pictures. I did a chain stitch, and when you do embroidery to embellish on a quilt top, you can do as much or as little as you want. So you don't have to spend inordinate amount of time doing this. Even though it is a hand stitched embellishment, there are some simple stitches that you just wouldn't believe the difference that they make and the texture that they add to a quilt top and a pillow. You could even do this on pillows. This embroidery is just like it can be done on anything, on your jeans, on a coat, on a dish towel, and your quilts. It's just, it's a universal embellishment that I think adds so much to it. And simple stitches like a back stitch. You can outline a design if you want to on there. You can, like I did, it was a pre-printed panel and there were hearts and flowers on there. So I did a chain stitch around a couple of the printed hearts on there. And then on the flowers, I did a little stem stitch for the flower stems and a back stitch for the leaves. And then on the flowers, I only just did like little French knots in the middle of this one flower. And I did, just little different things, not like super time consuming, not big, dense designs, but just little touches. And on the bunny, I of course I added the eyelashes that look sweet up close and angry from far away, but I'm going to work on the eyelash design. But maybe that's just how it is. I don't know, with the eyelash stitches. And on the nose, I did the little seed stitch. A seed stitch is where you just make all of these little random stitches, just like a straight stitch. But you put your needle, you bring it up in these random spots, and you bring it down, and it looks like little confetti or something. So I did that on the nose to make it look really cute, and it worked. It was really, really cute. So you could just play around with simple stitches like that to highlight parts of your projects. And I have also seen people, and I want to try this as well. They will do embroidery stitches on their EPP projects. So you can use that lazy daisy stitch, which really, it's like a elongated chain stitch, and it makes what looks like a petal of a flower, and you can do like 4 or 5 of those around in a circle. And it's a cute little flower, and you can do little French knots in the middle of the flower. I mean, the options are endless. They look really cute though in a flower EPP block. When in the very center you do this little embroidered flower. And quilt labels. I have hand embroidered quilt labels, but I will tell you that is time consuming because you're embroidering text like script or names and dates and whatever your message is. It looks beautiful though. It really does. But I think that I probably only reserve that for specific and special quilts. You can also use embroidery by machine to embellish fabrics, quilts, and everything. So it's just a little bit different by machine because you don't get that super custom flexibility to, let's say, like do a chain stitch around a specifically placed heart. You can, though, make an appliqué and some designs in the machine embroidery Sewing machines will have a satin stitch or something that will outline the heart. So the machines have just different types of capabilities and can do really beautiful embellishments to anything. So applique is another way that you can embellish fabrics. An applique is even used in types of mending because only you're calling it a patch, but you're essentially sewing a piece of fabric onto another piece of fabric, and you have to stitch it on and make sure that you stitch around the perimeter of it to, keep it from fraying. But decorative applique, there's so many different types, and you can do hand applique. And again, if you just incorporate a little bit of it, then the hand applique doesn't seem so time consuming and just too much. Maybe you just try one shape, like a star or a heart, and try that and just hand applique that. You can hand applique with a straight stitch, even very close to the perimeter. You don't have to do the needle turn applique, although the needle turn does look very nice, and you don't see any of the unfinished edge. I haven't really done a lot of needle turn, actually, to be honest, because I don't mind the look of the raw edge myself. So, in fact, I hand appliqued with a blanket stitch around the letters of this baby quilt, and it was around the raw edges. So it looks really pretty. The other thing is, while I'm thinking about it, is when you're doing this handwork, you can use, a lot of people use floss, cotton floss thread, like DMC or Aurifil of the sort. And floss has 6 strands of thread to it. And a lot of the times my go-to as far as the amount of threads that I use is 3 threads. Sometimes I use 4, sometimes I use 2, but 3 seems to be the most common number of threads that I will use from a floss, that it makes it prominent enough that you can see your design, but is not too thick. And then you lose some aspects of the details of your design. Sometimes I use all 6 threads. It just depends. But the floss is kind of flexible like that. But more and more, I am really loving the pearl cotton. And the 2 sizes that I use are size 5 and size 8. And I believe the lower the number, the thicker the thread. Yeah. So, and that is a twisted thread, and it's only 1, but it has the thickness. I would say the number 8 thread is equivalent to probably like a 3 strand of a floss thickness, and the 5 is probably more closer to the 4 to 6 strands, I would say. That's just my own kind of gauge or opinion of the equivalence to that. But try them all out. That's what I've been doing. I've been trying them all out, and it's been a lot of fun. And sometimes the floss gets a little cumbersome to work with because you're having to pull out the strands and so forth. And the pearl is just really easier to use because you're just threading one thing, one strand. I really love applique because it just allows you to do anything very flexibly. You can applique letters for people's names, monograms. You can do them in different fabrics, and it just the options are endless. But being able to applique, coordinating fabrics, and different colors and patterns just really brings a lot of interest to your project. And again, like any shapes, and then also applique designs can be layered. You can, um, like do like a little fox face and layer on the eyes and the nose and the whiskers. So you can really get involved with applique and make a really beautiful design and up your game a bit there. It just depends on how much time you want to invest in your projects. So maybe you might just do like a layered applique on a little zipper pouch or something. Start there. And I think it'll be a lot more fun and a lot less time spent than if you were to like do, like, I don't know, 12 fox faces on a quilt. Yeah, applique is fun. I really enjoy it, and I like to do hand, but I also I like to do a machine applique. The machine has a really nice blanket stitch, and that's usually my go-to stitch is a blanket stitch. And you can do a satin stitch on your machine. You can do a zigzag stitch, and you can do a straight stitch. So it can be very quick and simple with a straight stitch, or you can get a little bit more elaborate and do a satin or even a decorative stitch. When you get these machines and they've come with like 85 decorative stitches, and you think they're cute and you're just like, where could I use that? This is a place where you can use it. And something as simple as maybe even like a square shape applique design, if you're doing something a bit more modern, pick one of those decorative stitches and stitch that around the perimeter of the square. And you can even do a couple of rows of those. So play with your decorative stitches, and then you feel like you're making more use of your machine features as well. And another thing that you can do, this is with your machine, and you don't have to have a fancy machine at all. You can buy an embroidery hoop, like a hand embroidery hoop, and you put your fabric in that embroidery hoop, and then you lower your feed dogs, and you just do some free motion stitching, and you can move the sides of that hoop around your machine, and it's kind of like a pre embroidery machine way of embroidering. So a lot of people will do that and do some thread painting. It really takes no skill at all, really, to get started with it. And you just kind of like let your imagination go and just start stitching up and down, different types of threads. You can use metallic threads and thicker threads to create more texture. Thread painting is something that we don't always think about as a type of embellishment that we can do and play with for anything. You can do it on even like, clothing, thread painting. So thread painting to me is just something that's very expansive. Like, basically you can do what you want. But I mean, I think there are some techniques of shadowing, shading, and highlighting, especially if you're doing sort of like using photos as your design of either, like, say you're doing a mountain or an animal or that sort of thing. But, give it a whirl. This next form of embellishment is nothing new. It's just simply adding beads and buttons, and it just adds another element of design and texture. So, like those little seed beads at the craft store, sequins, stuff like that. I've seen some people do some really beautiful things with the beads. Just anything that you can stitch onto a fabric you can use. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is couching. So this can be done by hand and by machine. So let's talk about hand couching first. So this is what you would want to do with your hand embroidery. In hand embroidery, when you make just a larger straight stitch, it doesn't have to be that large. The straight stitch can be really any size, but just with a little bit of space in between the stitches. In any shape, you can do swirls, you can do a straight line. You can use this technique to be a frame around another design. And you just do your straight stitch or your back stitch, any one of those. Then you take a contrasting thread and you weave it in and out of your straight stitches. You're basically couching a thread through your hand embroidery. There's really so many ways that you can do hand couching. You can also take you can use yarn and just kind of like position that in any way you want. If you're doing a swirl or maybe you're going to do a heart shape or anything, you just put that yarn where you want it to go, and then you use your embroidery thread and you make little stitches across this yarn, let's say at, in inch increments, and that tacks down that yarn to the surface. So another way to couch is to do like a little zigzag stitch across the yarn. There's so many different ways to do it. I mean, I think basically couching just means attaching some sort of a fiber with another fiber onto a fabric. That's how I look at it. You're just finding some way to attach it, and decoratively. So you can also couch with your sewing machine. And I think there is a freeform version that you can do of this, again, where you can just put a piece of yarn onto your fabric and zigzag over that piece of yarn. But there are specialized feet that the different manufacturers have specifically for couching. And on the machine, most of the time, the couching is done by zigzagging your thread over your decorative fiber, whether it's a cord, a thick thread, a yarn, even fabric. You can kind of have little teeny tiny strips, like mini strips of fabric grouped up together, and zigzag over those. I haven't done a ton of couching yet, and it's something that I want to do. And I have been exploring all of these different ideas. So if you have ideas, and if you have been doing couching and you love it, you can always just let me know. I do have a couching attachments for my it is my my ruler foot, a ruler quilting foot. So they fit inside the circle, and the ruler quilting foot is just it's designed similar to a regular free motion quilting foot, where it's got that little circle at the bottom and the needle stitches inside that circle. So the couching foot for that ruler foot sits, there's 3 different sizes, and they slip inside the circle part of the ruler foot. And again, I have yet to try those, so it's something that I need to do. Sometimes, I don't know if you're like this, but when you get something new and you want to use it, but you just have to be in a certain mood, or just have to be ready to go through the learning process. So I know they're there, and I know that I want to do it, and if I knew how to do it, I probably would use it a lot more. So I've got to get myself motivated to learn how to use those. And you know what? I know it's not hard. I've seen it. I mean, basically, you just have to snap them in and put your put your yarn down or whatever it is, and it will stitch over it. So the one that I have is, I think, a bit more flexible than, there are some sewing machine feet where the cords go through these little holes and then you zigzag over those. So I don't think I have those kind of feet for my machine, but I'm definitely need to use what I have. So I will try the ruler foot one. And when I do, I'll let you know how it goes. All right, so that's all I've got on embellishing fabrics in your projects. I hope that this information is useful to you and gives you ideas on how you can incorporate this with your quilting, sewing, crafting, anything, because it's such a universal type of thing that you can incorporate into almost anything, and is pretty fun. All right, so before I go, and if you're still around here listening, I have got some YouTube and podcast recommendations. So on YouTube, I watched this one channel. It's called Heron's Bonsai, Herons Bonsai. And his name is Peter Chan, and I think he's pretty well known in the UK. That is where that's where he lives and has his business. But he has this really nice YouTube channel, and I watched a video of him. It's called Rescuing a Half-Dead Juniper. And I was just watching this completely amazed. Like, I think my jaw dropped in several parts, because when you see this half-dead bonsai tree, you're like, how is he going to rescue that? And you think that he's going to get rid of all the dead parts, but he uses them and just does some decorative things and adds carving to it, and actually kind of fits a little bit well with this episode, because it basically is a form of embellishment and enhances that bonsai tree to where it looked probably even more beautiful than it did in its original state. It's just amazing. I mean, you don't even have to have an interest in bonsai trees or anything like that. It's just for the sheer just entertainment and just seeing another creative art and skill and craft is really, I loved it. So you can let me know if you like it or not. The next one is Emma Jones. And she's also based in the UK. Coincidentally, Emma Jones has a YouTube channel. It's so beautiful, and she basically does English paper piecing. And she makes these really small projects. And she embellishes her English paper piecing with hand embroidery. And she does those little flowers in the centers. She'll do leaves and vines. Really pretty. And she has just a really, she uses a lot of Liberty fabrics, which I love. And I find her videos also kind of like very soothing. And she does talk about even like her struggles with the pandemic, and how the English paper piecing and sewing has helped her. But it's a really beautifully videoed, and I love this channel. So give it a watch and let me know what you think about it. All right, so I have a few podcasts to recommend, and a couple of these are in different areas of crafting. So the first one is called Life Handmade, and this podcast is done by the scrapbook.com company. If you do any card making, journaling, scrapbooking, die cutting, like as far as like the Sizzix or the I think AccuQuilt they have too, but this company carries all those types of products. And so their podcast I really like a lot because I learn different things about the paper crafting. The other podcast I've been listening to is Knit Picks. And as you might guess, it's a knitting podcast. So it's just a nice podcast where, I can learn new things about yarns and knitting and that sort of thing. All right. And this last podcast is called Screen Time with Roe and Roper. And Ro Khan and Richard Roper are local to Chicago. Richard Roper used to be on a long time ago. He was a movie critic with Roger Ebert, which I think he was very well known across, the States, if not the world. And they reviewed movies, and they oftentimes had different opinions, which made for the show to be interesting. So now he does this podcast with Ro Khan, Ro Khan's been a newscaster reporter here locally, and he's been on a TV show. He's had a radio show, FM radio, for like decades, and now he does his podcast with Richard Roper. So basically that's the background. But it's a quick little 30-minute podcast or less. They review movies, TV, and streaming shows, and they're kind of funny. And they also talk about, like, right now we're in award season, so they'll talk about the Academy Award nominations and stuff like that. So if you're looking for kind of like a light-hearted thing, and they kind of give like a preview of things that are about to come out. So, for instance, there's this movie coming out. It's a heist movie called The Vault. I usually do not like heist movies because they're all kind of the same. But I watched the preview on the Apple box, and it looks really interesting. It really does. They try to rob the Bank of Spain, and apparently in real life that bank has some sort of an underground water thing that if anybody tries to rob that vault that is underground, they will get drowned. All right, so we've reached the end of the show. Finally, right? It's a long one, I know, but that's the format of the podcast. So if you're still here and you're listening for the first time, that is an intended format for my show. It could change in the future, but right now, there really isn't another really kind of like a long format show about quilting, crafting, decorating, that sort of thing. All right. Have a happy Easter. If you celebrate Easter, Passover, and hopefully everyone in the Northern Hemisphere will be enjoying some beautiful spring weather in the weeks ahead. And until next time, happy quilting, sewing, and decorating. All right, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.